It is so hard to find a doctor these days who will make house calls. But Dr. Thrax still does. You've destroyed my command center. Well, I always hated my commanders anyway. The suspense, it's killing you. You will come for the toxin, but you'll stay because you're dead.
Holy cow, give this man an Oscar. Hail to the new Joker. Alright, with Commander Conquer Remastered coming out so soon, I've been trying to map out a comprehensive timeline for the franchise as a whole. However, parts of my research got so long that I decided to make them a separate video on their own. I don't know how many of you out there are Generals fans, but this one won't require extensive knowledge in the Generals games. Let's get started! Red Alert Generals and the Tiberian timelines are the three key components of the CnC universe. But Generals feels very detached from the rest of the franchise. It'd be boring if Generals games were completely irrelevant to the Command & Conquer storyline. But at first glance, that seems to be the case. The core of the CnC franchise is the green alien crystal known as Tiberium.
Tiberium continues to confound the scientific community, soaking up ground minerals and soil nutrients like a sponge. The end result of this unique leaching process creates the formation of Tiberium crystals, rich in precious metals and available for collection with a minimum of mining expense.
Tiberium arrived on Earth in the year of 1995, which corresponded with Cain's prophecy from millenniums ago.
Most people do not realize that the roots of our faith extend back several millennium, long before the emergence of the green crystal on Earth in 1995. An event foreseen by our great leader, Cain.
This is the one singular event that should apply to all alternate timelines inside this universe, because no amount of Einstein's time travel can possibly alter the speed and trajectory of a meteor and in turn defy an ancient prophecy regarding Tiberium's arrival. Tiberium's absence in the Red Alert universe is easily explained away by the fact that Red Alert games took place during Einstein's lifetime, long before 1995. However, the first Generals game featured the first GLA War starting in 2013. In the Tiberium universe, Tiberium infestation had become widespread across the globe before the end of the 90s.
There are now more than 200 areas of the Earth affected by Tiberium deposits.
Even though the Brotherhood of Nod isn't in the Generals universe to actively spread Tiberium, it doesn't make sense that we aren't seeing any trace of Tiberium at all by 2013. And if there's no Tiberium, Generals would have to be set in a separate universe, disconnected from all other Command & Conquer games. In today's theory, I will provide clues to Tiberium's existence within the Generals universe, and Dr. Thrax is the key to all this. Looking at the Generals timeline, the first event of significance is this. Dr. Thrax was doing his college in Jordan, everything was going well, you know, tuitions and loans and stuffs, and then one day he suddenly left for Cairo and disappeared into secret GLA research projects. This took place precisely in the year of 1995, the same year of Tiberium's purported arrival. So what happened there? Maybe Dr. Thrax decided that college was too hard, so he dropped out. Also, that is here because he was punk. If you thought that was remotely a possibility, then you really don't understand how Arab moms are. Get back to college, you hamar! You gotta become a doctor! So, a different explanation to Dr. Thrax's departure from Jordan is this. Tiberium's unique properties instantly made it a sensation that fascinated the scientific community.
Let me put it this way, Eddie. The possibilities of Tiberium are limitless.
Like many of his peers, Dr. Thrax saw this as a research opportunity and decided to leave behind his current studies for this newly discovered scientific anomaly, possibly for his doctorate. Because the Tiberium meteor landed near Tiber River in Italy, and the fact that Tiberium particles are known to contaminate water, Cairo would be one of the first places to become infected within the first year, before it proceeded to become a red zone. If you pay attention to a visualization of Tiberium's spread in Tiberian Dawn, you'd notice that Egypt became infected long before Jordan or most of the world did. Dr. Thrax was of course a brilliant mind, and his background in immunology drove him to focus on Tiberium's effects on humans. This would eventually earn him the crucial spots in the GLA, and result in the GLA's heavy reliance on chemical weapons 18 years later. Let us pause here. At this point, you may have two objections in mind. Number one, Tiberium isn't exactly what you think of when it comes to chemical weapons. You might ask, isn't Tiberium just a crystal that lies around for armies to harvest?
We now know that not only does Tiberium leach elements from the soil, but it appears to also leach vital nutrients from all plant life. Human contact with Tiberium is extremely toxic and often fatal. Exposure should be avoided.
Even though Tiberium might give an impression of a seemingly harmless mineral, Tiberium poisoning is an acute reality, and many highly lethal Tiberium-based weapons have been developed, namely not chemical warriors from Tiberium Dawn and chem buggies from Rivals. Just take a look. How similar does Tiberium gas look compared to GLA's toxic sprays? So yes, Tiberium is poisonous. Even Lady Gaga uses Tiberium for her poison. Moving on to the second objection. Don't we already have a good idea of what Dr. Thrax's poison is made of? Dr. Thrax's most famous creation has to be his anthrax poison, which you would assume is made of anthrax. Now, anthrax is a living organism that spreads through spores. It mostly affects animals, though inhalation anthrax is deadly to humans. The problem is, anthrax bacterium needs significant time to grow, and patients wouldn't develop symptoms until a week after being infected. Basically, anthrax is far from the instantly lethal chemical weapon Dr. Thrax uses. By the way, can we appreciate how much Tiberium behaves like anthrax? Tiberium also has been speculated to in fact be a life form and even an invasive species.
Tiberium is a new life form. Quite simply put, it seems to be adapting the Earth's terrain, foliage, and environment to suit its own alien nature. If this is the case, ladies and gentlemen, we are facing a killer beyond that of our most turbulent nightmares.
Like anthrax, it grows in soil and plants and spreads via spores. Once inhaled by humans, Tiberium embeds in its victims' lungs, leading to breathing problems, much like inhalation anthrax's effects. But unlike anthrax, Tiberium does not waste a moment to kill. Soldiers without a special suit will die as soon as Tiberium gas enters their lungs. Perhaps Dr. Thrax's anthrax poison is only partially made of anthrax, or it may not contain anthrax at all, which would explain why vaccines made to combat anthrax are completely useless against Dr. Thrax's poison. The poison may have been named anthrax only because of how much its main ingredient, Tiberium, resembled real-life anthrax. Up next, we have Dr. Thrax straight up identifying the contents of his poison.
Black Lotus. You know, of course, that the Black Lotus is a poisonous flower. I think that it's in one of my toxins. But I digress.
There's Black Lotus in his poison? Black Lotus isn't even real. It's a mythical flower. Real-life lotuses are not poisonous to humans. Only certain kinds of lilies are known to be poisonous to cats. Where did Dr. Thrax get his degree anyways?
Perhaps I shouldn't have gotten my degree from Mail Order College.
Well, let's hear what else Dr. Thrax has to say about his poison.
Give me back that oil, Derek. Don't you know petroleum is a key ingredient in my toxins?
Petroleum here sounds a lot more legit. We've all heard the horror stories of oil polluting land and ocean, causing countless animals' deaths. But again, petroleum isn't particularly harmful to men. This does not mean, however, that Dr. Thrax was lying about petroleum being a key ingredient in his poison. It's just that petroleum isn't the only ingredient. You see, petroleum primarily consists of hydrocarbon, while Tiberium is an element that tends to disrupt carbon-based molecular structures. And this interaction is what Dr. Thrax counts on from petroleum. Though harmless on its own, petroleum could easily interact with Tiberium and create something far more hazardous. Need I mention that Dr. Thrax's poison not only kills living organisms, but also tears apart vehicles. None of the three possible ingredients mentioned above come close to corroding metals. But Tiberium gas, on the other hand, is highly corrosive in nature and will damage vehicles and buildings.
Would you like the green or the blue? Both are equally satisfying.
Of course, green and blue here refer to the regular anthrax poison and Dr. Thrax's upgraded Anthrax Beta, which is blue in appearance. But to a Tiberium fan, green and blue can easily refer to the two most common types of Tiberiums. The most well-known green Tiberium is named Riparius, but Tiberium comes in many other forms, one of them being vinifera, commonly referred to as the blue Tiberium. Blue Tiberium is rarer due to a slower growth rate. This corresponds with Dr. Thrax's Anthrax Beta being a lot less employed in battle and requiring further research to unlock. Compared to green Tiberium, the blue variation is far more concentrated and poisonous, similar to how Anthrax Beta is far more deadly. Lastly, blue Tiberium is highly combustible and unstable, and tends to explode easily. Though you could say that Dr. Thrax likes to mix his poison with conventional explosives, we clearly see Anthrax Beta enhance GLA units' explosive damage, as if whatever is inside Anthrax Beta is unstable on its own. I mean, just look at this Anthrax bomb from Generals 2. It's totally a Tiberium explosion. Speaking of explosions, here's what the Tiberium Wars cutscene has to say about the dangers of a Tiberium detonation.
Such a blast may also create a self-sustaining exothermic reaction.
You're talking about a chain reaction.
Precisely. Any proximate Tiberium deposit, liquid or crystal, would be instantly detonated.
Seeing Tiberium's hazardous capabilities, has it begun to make sense that the GLA SCUD missile's high explosive warhead is available to all generals except Dr. Thrax, the only one with access to the more unstable Tiberium variations? In fact, there are in-game examples of chain reactions within generals. An Anthrax bomb's contamination requires American ambulances to remove, much like how the GDI developed specialized equipment to contain and reverse Tiberium growth. But alternatively, you can simply use any bomb projectile to clear an Anthrax bomb's vapor. Isn't it curious that a tiny explosion can get rid of a cloud of poisonous gas widespread across a massive area? This would only make sense if Anthrax bomb is in fact spawning Tiberium vapor, which, as we know, would detonate in a chain succession should a single bombshell blow inside it. At this point, you may have questions about the third stage of Dr. Thrax's poison, Anthrax Gamma. As you can see, Anthrax Gamma is purple. There's not a type of Tiberium that is purple, right? In actuality, Tiberium arboreus is similar to the blue Tiberium in appearance, except it is even more explosive, just like Anthrax Gamma. Though arboreus should normally appear blue, we have seen examples of Tiberium appearing as slightly different colors. This red Tiberium from Firestorm, for instance, looks positively orange. We've got plenty out of those few quotes from Dr. Thrax, but really there are a lot more clues out there that connects Anthrax poison to Tiberium's properties.
Be careful as you cross that bridge, General. The water below is not safe for swimming.
Tiberium particles can grow in water, even forming Tiberium Magis.
Oh, it is not so bad. You should only feel a long and painful burning after this.
Skin contacts with Tiberium prompts Tiberium to fuse with your skin, producing an intense burning sensation.
See, you can tell they are just right when the flesh falls off the bone.
Upon death from Tiberium exposure, human flesh would sometimes break down due to irregular mutation.
See, people do not belong in the air.
Dr. Thrax's poison has the potential of damaging aircrafts, while Tiberium particles can suspend in air, rendering entire regions uninhabitable and altering their atmosphere.
Do you enjoy seeing your men glow in the dark, huh? Build more then!
Tiberium is in fact radioactive and usually comes with an eerie, unearthly, deceptively pleasing glow. As Nod Harvester says,
The beautiful glow.
So after all those correlations, we can safely conclude that Dr. Thrax's poison cannot be made of Anthrax bacterium and petroleum alone. Meanwhile, Tiberium's properties match with every insight we can dig up regarding Dr. Thrax's poison. Does this definitively prove that Anthrax has to be made of Tiberium? No. But if Dr. Thrax really did make his toxins out of Tiberium, this could be the link between Generals and the rest of the Command and Conquer universe. From here, we can find Generals a proper place in the franchise's unified timeline. Stay tuned for our next video. So here's how our story goes. Tiberium was initially regarded as a harmless crystal over in the Tiberian timeline. The GDI was slow to discover Tiberium's devastating impacts on human civilization, and by the time they started researching methods to restrain Tiberium's spread, it was far too late. In the General's timeline, however, Dr. Thrax jumped to the front line to study this alien mineral immediately after its arrival on Earth. His timely contribution to Tiberium-related research would have granted GLA insights on the endless potential of the green crystal. Upon realizing the true value of Tiberium before the rest of the world did, the logical thing to do for an ambitious organization like the GLA is to quickly gather Tiberium within nearby regions and hoard it for themselves. They needed to secure sole proprietorship on this source of funding. This would have been much easier to do in an early stage of Tiberium infestation, as the limited number of Tiberium pods grew in a relatively small vicinity and had not yet undergone any adaptation. Once most Tiberium had been moved into an environment of controlled growth, it became an endless supply for GLA's toxic weaponry as well as other military expenses. I don't care how rich Prince Cassad was or how many raids they did, the GLA could not otherwise have had enough resources to wage war against all major world powers when they themselves had to buy shoes from black markets. This is how the GLA rose to power. They are the Generals Universe counterpart of Nod that depended on Tiberium for rapid military advancements.
The Brotherhood springs from the lowest of places, offering unity and peace to otherwise neglected and abused nations.
Or you could say they were the opposite of Nod, as instead of using their knowledge to spread the Tiberium, they did everything in their power to keep Tiberium from the rest of the world. Because the GLA took early actions to secure Tiberium before it turned into an uncontrolled pandemic, in a way, they had intentionally saved the world. Nope, and this video was not sponsored by the GLA in any way, shape, or form. You can pay me later, habibi. But hey, that's just a theory. A theory without an original outro. Seriously, go down to the comments and suggest something for me to say at the end of my videos. I can't copy MacPad forever.
Oh, what do you have against toxins, huh? Have you seen what they put in food these days?